Welcome to La Vida Rosa. I'm your host Pinky, and today we're going to be talking about the Married at First Sight reunion. So if you'd like to see more, then just stay tuned. Like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into this video. Okay, y'all, they finally gave us a reunion after long suffering through this season. I mean, I feel like we've gotten at least 55 episodes. I cannot believe they stretched this boring season out, and they had the nerve to call it shocking in the beginning of the reunion. There was nothing, absolutely nothing shocking about this season. Not Decision Day. Y'all ruined Decision Day by showing Clint kissing Dom as a preview. Y'all kept trying to wring out the juice. There was absolutely nothing. This is literally one of the worst seasons of Married at First Sight. And I think we all can agree on that. We're tired, okay? We've been tired. We feel like y'all been dragging us by our scalp this entire season. And then we finally get to the reunion. I will say the reunion slightly better than the season. Slightly. Honestly, it's because we got to see more of Jasmine's personality. We got to see Jasmine stand up and have a little bit more of a backbone this reunion, and honestly, that was so good for me to see. She just looks so much more refreshed, and I think that's what made the reunion for me, to be honest. But we're gonna get to her. Obviously, they're gonna have Kevin host. They have Kevin host every single reunion. For the most part, I feel like Kevin did a good job of trying to get down to the bottom of things, but Kevin gets on my nerves because Kevin has his favorites and who he wants to hold accountable and who he doesn't. I feel like for the most part on this reunion, he was on the right side of things, but I'm going to talk about where I feel like he dropped the ball. I'm going to go ahead and start with Nicole and Chris. Nicole and Chris look really nice, I will say. It's really sad because I feel like Nicole and Chris feel out of place on this season, on this cast, because everyone else has broken up, and for them to be the only couple, I'm happy for Nicole and Chris. Obviously, I want them to make it. I do think they can make it. It was nice to see that they're still together. Nicole said that she finally understands how it feels when someone else is in their business unwarranted, because the fans have been giving that unnecessary advice, and I'm glad you got a taste of your own medicine. One thing I did like about the reunion is that they did show us some unseen footage that we hadn't seen before. Even though possibly that footage could have been used to make the season better, it did help to enhance the reunion. So on their honeymoon, when Chris was really upset about not being able to have his dogs live with him in the apartment, they showed Nicole basically cussing out the producers on behalf of Chris and those dogs. She was like, look, we're gonna have to live apart. That's just what it's gonna have to take, because you see how this is affecting him. And you know, that's very cute of Nicole. You know, she seems like the type that will definitely speak up on behalf of both of them if anything goes wrong. You know, Chris tried to defend his behavior, crying or whatever, saying that the whole situation was just overwhelming. I'm gonna give that to him. Maybe just in that moment he couldn't handle it, and maybe had he gotten all his tears and everything out, maybe he would have been able to work with Nicole a little bit better to find a solution. They bring up children, and it's very clear that Chris for sure wants children, but when Nicole speaks on children, she uses very iffy language. Obviously, they're not trying to have children right now, but she said we will possibly address this again in a year to see if we want to have children. And Chris came behind her and said, well, we definitely want children. And I'm just like, well, are y'all on the same page about that? So that's another thing that could possibly throw a wrench in their relationship. And then later on in the episode, the women claim that they always go to Nicole for advice. And it's like, are y'all going to Nicole for advice, or is she just imposing her opinion unprovoked? Because that's what she gives. But is the advice good? That's what I want to know. Do y'all use the advice? When the advice is implemented, does it make your life better? That's what I want to know. So next, let's move on to Dom and Mac. Dom and Mac honestly didn't even have to show up to the reunion. Like, they passive aggressively hate each other, and they only knew each other for 2 weeks. Like, they didn't even last that long in the whole show, so they kind of feel out of place as well. I hated Dominique's dress and her makeup and her hair. It just all aged her. It just made her look so much older than what she is. Kevin brought up the fact that he moved, and that validated her feeling that he was not rooted in Nashville. And you know, that's something that was a turnoff for her. While I agree with Dominique, it's like, Dominique, you weren't necessarily ready to be married either, so chill out. So then they pulled up the confessional of Mac, basically saying that Dominique didn't need a dog because she travels, she parties, she has a 9-to-5. So basically, poor dog, because she's not gonna have time for it. While the comments were mean-spirited, they weren't necessarily false. Like, two things can be true at the same time, okay? He is very passive-aggressively nasty, right? He'll never like really do it to her face, and he's like a confessional gangster when it comes to Dominique. That's very true, and I will always call him out on that. But Dominique does seem like the type to not really care about that dog until it's time to take pictures, or if she get bored. But she gonna be out the house most of the time. So obviously Dominique felt some type of way about him saying that. Like, I said congratulations to you about your house, and he admitted he was wrong, blah. Oh yeah, they did bring up Gil, and she says that she's good friends with Gil, but clearly there's no romantic connection there. I think we all saw that coming. Plus, we found out that Gil was more so attracted to Kirsten when he was watching the show on Couples Couch. Let's move on to Gina and Clint. I'm not sure why Kevin brought up the slender comment about her body and how he likes, you know, an athletic body type, and Gina feeling offended. Oh, you don't know how many times I go to the gym. Don't bring all of that up, because he didn't say what he said until she said what she said about gingers and not being attracted to that. Now, why are we not calling Gina out just as much for what she said? Because I feel like that set the tone. I really did. Cliff was interested in Gina, regardless of whether he was attracted to her initially or not. He was trying, and you could tell, because whenever she said that, you could see him deflate. Like, he felt some type of way, like, dang, you're not attracted to me. Yeah, he didn't have to say it in front of everybody, but I don't see anything wrong with what Clint said. I feel like Nicole poured gas on that fire and made the situation much worse than it had to be. She put that battery in Gina's back, and Gina was very quick to go to Clint playing the victim, and Clint was like, well, wait, we was just cool all day. You didn't have a problem until now. And he also claimed to have given a 40-minute apology. So why are we going back over this and rehashing it, especially if we're not going to give the full context? We have Kevin doing his investigative journalism, trying to figure out why they didn't make it, because they seem to get along so well now. We just don't understand. Y'all get along even better now than y'all did then. So what is it? Let's just be real. Gina did not want Clint from day one. Period. Hard stop. And she constantly gave passive aggressive reminders and digs that constantly told Clint she doesn't really want him. So why would he pursue her? It's like Kevin was constantly trying to pin it on Clint, like Clint wasn't doing enough. But how can you pursue someone who does not want to be pursued, who is not attracted to you, who does not want you? Because you can't tell me otherwise. She was standoffish the entire time. And he said it himself, I tried to get her to open up. I would tell her little things about me, and she'd be like, yeah, okay, and wouldn't open up back. Like, that is a sign of someone who is not interested. You're constantly asking Clint these questions. Why are you not asking Gina any of these same questions? Like, because she was not putting in any effort at all. Then they discussed how pretty much everything went wrong on their honeymoon. Their bag got stuck at the airport. Clint got a stomach bug. Like, everything just was a disaster. And I feel like it set the tone for the rest of their marriage. They brought up the fact that Clint questioned the fact that Gina possibly came on this show only to promote her business. To be fair, they told us that Gina had just started the business and was building it up, and she was just hyper focused on making that work and making sure that it was successful. And there were so many negative things that happened with her business during filming that affected her emotions and her mood. And to a certain extent, I could totally understand why she would constantly bring it up had she just opened, and it really was a huge part of her life at that time. I still feel like Gina came on this show at least partially to promote that business. I feel like her finding love or finding a successful relationship was secondary. I really feel like she wanted to push that business to the forefront. That's all she talked about 24/7 with Clint. But I will say it probably was something that she could use as like a buffer. She wasn't really interested in him, so she would talk about her business in order to kind of like not have to have like real conversation with Clint or try to come up with something, because she was not interested in him. Instead of moving into that apartment with him, I really wish she would have just let things go. They act like there's so much respect in trying, even though you knew you didn't want him. You wasted his time, you wasted our time, you wasted the expert's time, you're wasting our screen time because you knew you didn't want that man. Clint said what he said about her coming on the show to promote, but he backtracked, and he's always going to do that because I feel like Clint just doesn't want to look like the bad guy. And they ended their segment by saying Clint does have a girlfriend. So shout out to Clint. I'm glad he found somebody. He seems like he's serious about this one. So hopefully she is the one. And hopefully you can ride off in the sunset with her in that sailboat. Live happily ever after. We are all rooting for you, Clint. Let's move on to Shaq and Kristen. First of all, are they matching on purpose? That kind of threw me off. Like, she is wearing more so of a yellow and he is wearing more so of gold, but I ain't seen none of the other couples matching. Not even Chris and Nicole. They still together. So that kind of set off a little something in my mind. But Kirsten was absolutely gorgeous. This is the prettiest I've ever seen Kirsten. I mean, Kirsten is a pretty woman, but she looked flawless. Whoever did her makeup, Shaq looked really nice in his suit as well. I just hate them childish tennis shoes, but that's just me. And we still have Nicole still trying to push them to get back together. Whenever they did their one-on-one with Kevin, Shaq made it clear that he went back to therapy, and they talk about how they do stay in touch and they do have their little check-ins that they do with one another. Shaq has got a new job and he moved to Texas. Kirsten discusses how truly angry she was about decision day, and how she really didn't want to talk to him because she kind of felt like his decision came out of left field. She was just salty after all of that went down. They had to take very small steps to get back to being able to be cordial and being able to be in touch with each other. And she said it was a huge step for her to even send condolences to him because, you know, of how she felt, but she put her pride aside and did that. She went on to say that she does feel like she was nurturing. She was cooking, cleaning, asking him about school. And I understand, yes, you want nurturing from your wife, but this is not your mother. And I always felt like Shaq was wanting a bit too much from Kirsten. Like, I feel like she was giving a lot more than what he was acting like she was. Especially when we saw video footage. This was like security cam footage when you feel like no one is looking, and she's like excited, hey, how you doing, when he walked through the door, and he literally come in, don't speak, walk right past her, very dry, very nasty. So I feel like Kirsten was putting in more effort than Shaq would like for you to think. He had the nerve to say that they just needed more time when he's the one who cut their time short. I'm glad you're in therapy because you're very contradictory and hypocritical, and I don't know if you realize that. I don't know if you're in denial about that. He also claimed that they didn't really talk when they weren't filming, and I could see that because he was constantly busy and constantly working. And he also said neither knew how to communicate. I could agree with that as well. I think especially in the beginning she was very hard to get through to, but I feel like towards the end it was you. Kevin said everything shifted after that whipped cream and strawberry, and I'll never forget that episode because I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Yes, they was tongue kissing and Kirsten was all up in it. I thought Kirsten would be standoffish, but she was very much so into that kiss. So I was like, okay, I do think something shifted there. I do think she became more invested, and he checked out. He said that he was under pressure and he kept shutting down, and Kirsten kept telling him, you know, you don't have to put this kind of pressure on yourself. Just relax and go with the flow. They both said that they didn't realize their flaws and their bad communication until after they got done filming. And Kevin asked him, well, why did you say no? Because everyone was shocked that you did say no, like including Kirsten. What made you do it? And he said a prophet told him that there was important decisions that he needs to make. And Kevin was like, okay, what prophet said this? And he said he's a pastor in his PhD program. And he also told him this may be a time for you to make a selfish decision for yourself. I'm not saying that man is a false prophet, but the Bible also says beware of false prophets. So you should be careful with who you receive a prophetic word from. He said that he didn't decide to say no until he walked in that day. He felt some type of way because when it was just them two at home, he thought she just wanted him to throw everything and everyone else away and for it to just be them two. And I don't think that's so. I think she just didn't know you that well and you're her husband and she wanted to spend time. Like, what wife that loves their husband doesn't want to spend as much alone time with him as possible, especially when he's working, especially when he has all these things that he's juggling and constantly doing? You want the nurturing, but then you thought she was doing too much when she tries to give it to you. Like, but basically he said that he knew he made a mistake by saying no. He should have given it more time because she said he would constantly bring up how they only had 8 weeks. They only had 8 weeks. And she's like, look, I'm sitting here. I want to be your wife. I want to be married to you for a lifetime. We have plenty of time. He finally admitted at the end that he just didn't feel like he was good enough for her. And instead of constantly blaming her and saying she's not nurturing enough, which in the beginning, I could have completely saw where you were coming from, but she was giving that to you. So you put it on that when really you felt inadequate. I'm glad that he was honest about that, but I just couldn't stand how he was putting it on her the entire time because you feel inadequate. You feel like you're not good enough. You might feel like you're not masculine enough. I just wish he had the wherewithal to say that because you never know how that could have changed things. At the end of the day, Shaq made the right decision. I don't think they belong together. I hope they don't get back together. I think he needs to go do some more soul searching and take full advantage of that therapy and learn as much about himself as he can. Try to grow so that when he does get in a relationship, he can be his true self and not feel insecure. And Kristen, she has things she should work on too. But I hope she finds someone that can love and appreciate her for who she is and not the idea of her. So finally, let's move on to Jasmine and Ayres. First off, let me say Jasmine looks amazing. Her dress looked beautiful. Her hair and makeup gorgeous as usual. That's a pageant queen. She stays on point. But we also see that she has a new smile. And this is something that I avoided talking about through the season because I wanted to see if at some point this would be addressed. As many times as Ayres has been asked, he's refused to tell us what exactly about Jasmine turned him off, right? Some people speculated possibly her body. Some people speculate, oh, she's not hood enough or she doesn't have enough attitude. She's too classy. But the general consensus amongst the audience is her teeth. Even though her teeth didn't necessarily stick out so much to me, or it wouldn't have stuck out so much to me had people not constantly brought it up. After everybody constantly saying it, I'm like, Ayres is a shallow person, so possibly that did. And even when Kevin asked him on this episode, he refused to tell him. He said that he did tell Jasmine. They had a private conversation about it, and it's something that he's not willing to share publicly because he doesn't want to embarrass her. He doesn't want to hurt her family, none of that. With her getting a new smile, one, I hope she did it for her. And I hope it's not because of the viewing audience and what they had to say. And I for sure hope it wasn't because of Ayres allegedly not being attracted to her because of it. The world may never know because it never came out of their mouth, but I just wanted to address the elephant in the room. The other thing I noticed is, why is Ayres all up on her now? He was never this touchy-feely before decision day, okay? He could barely look her in her eye. He barely had anything to say to her that wasn't stupid or foolish, but now his arm all around her, and I'm just like, get off of me. I wish I could get in Jasmine's body and go off on him one good time. He deserves it. Kevin brings up his rude cousin and how nasty she was, talking about Jasmine behind her back, basically calling her fake. And Jasmine did say she didn't want her around because she's disrespectful. They show a never before seen clip, I believe. First of all, when they first sit down, he tells Jasmine she looks really tired basically, and she was just telling him that she doesn't want the cousin to come because she's disrespectful. And in response to that, he told her that he wants someone that can hold her own. And I love how all of the women in the room took turns going in on Ayres and telling him he was dead wrong for not having his wife's back and not checking his cousin, for speaking down on her. And Mac called himself defending Ayres. To a certain extent, I could see where Mac was coming from. But Mac, we're not necessarily talking about him feeling conflicted, his brand new stranger wife, and his cousin not getting along. We know that's a shifty place to be. What we're saying is, you need to have your wife's back. You shouldn't be allowing this woman to call her fake or even allude to her as fake, because that is your wife. Mind you, Jasmine checks him real fast, okay? Jasmine was like, the point is he needs to have my back. And he was like, well, I agree. And she was like, well, then don't defend him. Child, he should have zipped that lip after that, because you just look and sound stupid. She shut him down so classy. I'm like, Jasmine, where was this Jasmine during the season? It's crazy because Jasmine is so full of life in this reunion, and you could see how this situation with Ayres completely sucked all the life out of her. And she even cried later on in the episode watching herself back. Her confidence was so low. It was just, you could tell that's not her, and that's not how she normally functions. You could tell she's usually a high energy person. I mean, she's a cheerleading coach, for goodness sakes. It was so nice to see Jasmine be herself and really command the room when it was time to. When she got Mac together, Ayres, if you look at him, he was smirking. He was low-key living for it. He wanted to be got together. Later on, they're going to talk about how Ayres would do and say certain things because he was tired of filming. He'll say crazy things like, yeah, I want an open marriage in about 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to be, he claimed he was saying that just to be funny. I low-key believe him, because I feel like when he did say the stupid stuff, he wanted to be checked. He wanted Jasmine to like shut him all the way down. Like, shut up, you sound stupid. Like, he wants that. Because I remember in the season, he liked that whole dominatrix S&M type of thing that goes on in the bedroom. He liked when she handcuffed him and slapped him. I don't know, y'all. That's the connection I put together. So then Kevin brought up the fact that he's more so attracted to a Serena Williams body type and not a Zendaya. He claimed that he didn't say that, but sir, it's on tape. What is wrong with these men dodging accountability for their own words that are caught on film? Tristan just did that in the tell-all, and I'm just like, you're caught in 4K. Like, yeah, you did say that. Nothing's necessarily wrong with it. It's just, even though Jasmine kind of falls in the middle, that's not what he's attracted to. He wants someone thick. He said he wanted Meg Thee Stallion type. Even though they never had a romantic connection, they always felt like they were friends, and he friend-zoned her on the honeymoon, and they pretty much had that sort of connection ever since. She did say she does like that he was always honest. He told her that he wasn't attracted to her early enough for her to be able to pump the brakes on her feelings so she wouldn't get so invested. And I will say, I am glad he did that, because he could have led her on for a little while. He could have slept with her. He could have done a lot of things that would have made the situation worse. And even though I feel like he just wasn't attracted to her, that's why he didn't do it, I appreciate him for doing that. It's the very least he could do. Now, this was new to me. She found out on her honeymoon that he slept with her friend 10 days prior to them getting married. And the way that she found out is they had a mutual friend in common on social media. I really wish they could have went more into that, because she also said that he was her type. So maybe she has like more of the voluptuous Serena Williams type of body. I really wish they would have said that during the season, or made that known during the season, because that explains a lot why Jasmine's self-esteem took a hit. Because what a conflicting feeling to know that your husband is more attracted to your friend than he would ever be to you. He was so attracted to her that he was willing to sleep with her, but I'm your wife and you're not willing to sleep with me. Like, oh my goodness, it was so much deeper than what I ever thought. If you're fooling around with someone 10 days before you're supposed to be getting married, I don't care if you know if you've been chosen or not, but if you know you're like a finalist, they came to your house to check it out, you know you're in the running. Why are you still sleeping with people? And I feel like you're not ready if that's what you're doing. Right up until a week or so before you're supposed to get married, like, I think that's a huge red flag. And for him to be so open about it and bragging about it, I know the experts had to have known that he wasn't that serious. I mean, Ayres is a walking red flag. So then her friend came out, and her friend basically was ready to go in on Ayres, like all of us are. She felt like Jasmine was too classy for him, and he liked someone that's basically a little wild, a little hood, you know what I'm saying? That's what he used to. And the friend was like, she's not a prude, like she'll be Meg the Stallion for you in the bedroom, but she wants to keep that sort of thing private. She is a mentor to young girls. She is a professional woman. She doesn't want her intimate life immortalized forever online and on Netflix and, you know, on these internet streets. I'm not mad at her at all for that. Finally, we find out that she is still dating friend boy that she was dating a couple of episodes ago and wouldn't show his face. It's not him that wouldn't show his face. She didn't want to show him, but she still didn't show him. I already talked about how she broke down after seeing how miserable she was during this experiment. She broke down in front of the ladies. And she ended up shedding tears over seeing that. Because, like, imagine seeing your lowest moments broadcasted on television and constantly replayed. I don't know. I'm happy for Jasmine. She seems like she's in a much better place than she was before. I hope this guy means her well. I hope it's a healthy relationship. I hope he's everything that she needs and more. She deserves it, because everything she went through with oh boy, she deserves it. So that's it for my review of the reunion. Y'all let me know what y'all think down below. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? I'd love to hear your opinion. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Peace.